Honor, at this time, defense now calls Corey Hyde to the stand. Please introduce yourself to the court.
Good afternoon. My name is Corey Hyde.
What do you do for a living, Mr. Hyde?
I'm the personal executive assistant to Mr. Avery Bancroft down at the Black Bear Casino.
How long have you been Avery Bancroft's personal assistant?
I'm coming up on 4.5 years with Mr. Bancroft. I started with him not too long after I left Vegas.
What are some of your responsibilities as Mr. Bancroft's executive assistant?
Well, basically, in a nutshell, my job is to keep Mr. Bancroft happy. I help manage his calendar, set up appointments, answer phone calls. I also go out and get his favorite lunch. He's really been pigging out on some barbecue spare ribs and coleslaw. I got him introduced on that. But lately, me and him have been really working hard on getting up a new proposal for the casino license that was announced out in October. Me and him have been busting our chops over that.
Did anyone contact you about this casino proposal?
Yes, ma'am. I received a phone call from someone named Mickey Keenan on March 1st, I believe, and he wanted to set up an appointment, so we did so for the following day.
Can you describe what happened at this meeting with Mickey Keenan?
Yes, ma'am. Well, initially, we just talked business. I needed some more information about the casino license application, so we started talking about that. But after a little while, Mr. Keenan's, as you call it, tone of voice kind of changed, and he started threatening me, or accusing me and Mr. Bancroft of gambling violations.
Now, had you ever committed gambling violations?
No, ma'am. I learned a lot of business from my pappy, and he always told me if it ain't worth doing right the first time, it ain't worth doing right at all. Mr. Bancroft, or Mr. Keenan, slammed I guess you want to call it a police badge down on the table, and told me that he was a cop and was doing an investigation into Mr. Bancroft.
Objection, Your Honor, to hearsay.
Your Honor, under 8033, this is an exception to hearsay. It goes to Mickey Keenan's plan.
Your Honor, I don't think that is going towards a plan, but just stating that he's a cop. That's going towards the truth of the matter asserted, and not towards a motive, intent, or a plan.
Your Honor, may I respond? The statement was, he told me his plan was to investigate Avery Bancroft. If you're objecting to the previous statement that he was a cop, then this is not being used for the truth of the matter, but the effect on the listener.
Yes, Your Honor.
Did Mickey Keenan tell you about any plan for his investigation?
Yes, ma'am. He told me that the plan was to catch Mr. Bancroft trying to bribe Ms. Covington, the head of the Gambling Commission.
Now, what did Mickey Keenan order you to do?
Primarily, I was set up to be his informant, basically his inside man. He wanted me to help set up meetings between Mr. Bancroft and Ms. Covington, which really wasn't that, I didn't think that was a big deal at the time because that was my job anyway.
Did Mickey Keenan give you any other instructions on what to do as his informant?
Yes, ma'am. I got an email on the 31st with some instructions about a meeting that was to take place between Mr. Bancroft and Mr. Keenan.
Would you recognize a copy of that email if I showed it to you in court today?
Yes, ma'am, I would.
Now, approaching opposing counsel and witness with the same with Defense Exhibit C. I just handed you Defense Exhibit C. Do you recognize it?
Yes, ma'am.
What is it?
It's a copy of the email that Mr. Keenan sent me.
Is it a fair and accurate copy?
I believe it is, yes, ma'am.
Your Honor, at this time, defense now moves Defense Exhibit C into evidence.
Any objection?
No objections, Your Honor.
Is it enough?
What did Mickey Keenan instruct you to do for your March 31st meeting in this email?
He told me to make sure that the conversation was moving in the right direction. He also wanted me to say something about sweetening the pot, and that he emphasized that it was important that that came from me and not him.
Did Mickey Keenan reference anything about Avery Bancroft in this email?
Yes, ma'am. He said that Avery should, I apologize, he said that Avery needs to realize that to get this done, that somebody needed to be made happy, and that person was Ms. Covington.
Your Honor, approaching the witness to retrieve evidence and tender to the bench.
You're offering it?
Yes, defense exhibit C.
You would object.
It was already into
Into evidence. Now, can you describe what happened at this March 31st meeting?
Yes, ma'am. The meeting just started off, kind of business-like between Mr. Bancroft and Mr. Keenan. They were discussing how the new casino was going to be about 18,000 square feet and state-of-the-art. But then the conversation kind of turned.
Now, would you like a transcript to reference this conversation?
Yes, ma'am, please.
Now, approaching the witness with a copy of defense exhibit B. This transcript of the conversation. Now, at what point did the conversation turn?
Well, right around when Mr. Bancroft was talking about the new casino, Mr. Keenan had been kind of glaring at Mr. Bancroft, so I said something into Mr. Bancroft about sweetening the pot, like what Mr. Keenan had told me to do in the email.
Now, how did Mr. Bancroft react when you said something, as previously instructed, about sweetening the pot?
Well, I said something, Mr. Bancroft said something about adding a conference room, which I kind of thought was a good idea, but Mr. Keenan said that that wasn't good enough.
Did Mickey Keenan say anything else regarding Chase Covington in this transcript?
Yes, ma'am. He said he was wondering on why he should allow Mr. Bancroft to have 2 casino licenses.
And was Chase Covington's name mentioned in reference to that?
Yes, ma'am. He said that in order to get this done, Chase Covington would need to be made happy.
Thank you. Now approaching the witness to retrieve evidence and tender to the bench. Now, did you ever contact Mickey Keenan about being uncomfortable as his informant?
Yes, ma'am. A couple weeks after that meeting, I met with Mr. Keenan and told him that I just didn't want to be a part of this anymore. Me and Mr. Bancroft, we get along well. I don't want to see him hurt. But Mr. Keenan told me that backing out now would be the worst decision of my life.
Objection, Your Honor, to hearsay.
Your Honor, may I respond? This is once again not being used for the truth of the matter, but the effect on the listener. Corey Hyde.
Your Honor, I do believe that they are using this for the truth of the matter asserted.
Your Honor, may I respond? This is not being used for the truth of the matter asserted that backing out would be the worst decision of his life, but rather the effect that it had on the listener and his subsequent actions in continuing to be Mickey Keenan's informant.
May I be heard, Your Honor?
Let's move on.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, did you have any other meetings with Avery Bancroft?
Yes, ma'am. There was a meeting set up on April 13th between Mr. Bancroft, Ms. Covington, Mr. Hyde, and myself.
Now, how did this meeting begin?
Well, it started off much like any other business meeting. Mr. Bancroft started talking about, his casino proposal, 18,000 square feet, number of slot machines, that sort of thing.
Did Mickey Keenan say anything to Avery Bancroft during this meeting?
Yes, ma'am. He said that, he told Mr. Bancroft that, Avery, if you want to get this done, then you need to do something a little bit extra.
And how did Mr. Bancroft respond to this?
Well, Mr. Bancroft just kind of got that deer in the headlights look, and he seemed to be real nervous. But after a little while, he said, well, how about 100,000 reasons?
Now, how did this meeting end?
Well, at that point in time, the conversation kind of turned to parking lots, so I went up and used the restroom. When I came back out, there was a knock at the door. It was the bellhop, Mr. Del Sesto, with some food, and at that point, Ms. Covington just got up and left.
Now, did you set up any other meetings for Avery Bancroft, Chase Covington, and Mickey Keenan?
Yes, ma'am. There was another meeting that was supposed to take place 3 days later on the 16th.
Now, can you describe what happened at this meeting?
Yes, ma'am. I arrived at the meeting, Mr. Bancroft arrived, and Mr. Keenan was there as well, but Ms. Covington never showed up.
Now, what happened when Mrs. Covington didn't show up to this meeting?
Well, as we were waiting around, Mr. Keenan went in and used the restroom, and during that time, Mr. Bancroft decided to leave.
Did Mickey Keenan come back to this meeting?
Yes, ma'am, he came back a few minutes later.
Now, how did Mickey Keenan react when he saw that both Avery Bancroft and Chase Covington weren't at this meeting?
He was madder than a rattlesnake getting his tail pulled. He kind of got up all up in my face and started spitting in my face a little bit, and told me that if I didn't help him find Mr. Bancroft right then and there, that I'd be going to jail.
Now, did you find Mr. Bancroft for the rest of that day?
No, ma'am. I got tired of Mr. Keenan threatening me with jail time, especially when I didn't do anything. So I decided to just call it a day and go home.
Thank you, Mr. Hyde. No further questions, Your Honor.
Cross-examination.
Yes, Your Honor. Will Rogers for the prosecution, may I inquire? Good afternoon, Mr. Hyde.
Afternoon.
You are Avery Bancroft's executive assistant.
That's correct, for 4.5 years now.
You're currently still employed by Avery Bancroft, right?
Yes, sir, that is correct.
So Avery Bancroft does pay your checks.
He's the boss man, yes, sir.
I want to talk about these meetings that you set up. Now, specifically, you talked to Keenan on March 2nd, right?
We initially emailed back and forth on the 1st, but we met face to face on the 2nd.
And this is when he revealed he was an undercover agent, right?
Yes, sir, that's right.
And he tried to get you along in his investigation as well.
I'm afraid I don't understand.
He tried to put you in his investigation as well as an informant, right?
He told me that I'd be helping him, or otherwise I'd be going to jail, yes, sir.
So you decided to go along with his investigation.
Yes, sir, I ain't cut out for jail.
And you said yourself that you thought it was a good idea to go along with the police.
If given the option of helping the police or going to prison, of course I'm going to help the police.
But to be clear, you thought it was a good idea to go along with the police, right?
Yes, sir.
So I want to fast forward to March 31st. Now you met with Mickey Keenan, Avery Bancroft, and Avery Bancroft, right? At this meeting?
Yes, sir, that was who was there.
And you were talking about the proposal.
Yes, sir.
And in this meeting, Mickey Keenan wanted you to mention something like sweetening the pot.
Yes, sir.
And so you did, right?
That is correct.
I want to fast forward to an April 12th meeting between you, Avery Bancroft, and Danny Hoy. You remember that meeting?
Sure, it was a couple weeks later.
At this meeting, Avery Bancroft wanted to discuss security concerns for the April 13th meeting.
If I remember correctly, and don't quote me on this, but I thought that Mr. Hoy actually approached Mr. Bancroft about it first.
But Avery Bancroft still wanted to discuss the security concerns with Danny Hoy at this meeting, right?
No, he was agreeable to it, yes, sir.
And Avery Bancroft wanted everyone to be patted down.
Objection, speculation.
Overall.
That was Mr. Hoy's suggestion, but Mr. Bancroft went along with it.
And Avery Bancroft wanted all electronics confiscated.
Yes, sir, I believe so.
And Avery Bancroft wanted Danny Hoy posted at the door.
Yes, sir.
And Mickey Keenan didn't attend this meeting, right?
No, it was just the three of us.
So Mickey Keenan didn't tell Avery Bancroft, to your knowledge, to do all of that.
To my knowledge, no, sir.
And to your knowledge, that was Danny Hoy and Avery Bancroft's decision.
It was Danny Hoy's suggestions and Mr. Bancroft's decision to do it, that's right.
Now, let's talk about that April 13th meeting. Now, in this meeting, it was you, Avery Bancroft, Chase Covington, and Mickey Keenan.
Yes, sir, it was.
In this meeting, at no point did Mickey Keenan bring up the word bribe.
Bribe specifically? No, sir.
And in this meeting, Mickey Keenan only mentioned the word money after Avery Bancroft said it, right?
Yeah, he said something like, it's all about the money or something such.
Now, you actually weren't there for the whole meeting, right?
No, sir. Like I said, I had stepped in to use the restroom, but I couldn't have been gone for more than maybe 2 minutes.
Well, while you were in the restroom, you can't tell us what happened in that meeting, right?
No, sir, I can't.
So let's talk about the day of April 16th. Now, earlier in the day, you were with Avery Bancroft, right?
Yes, sir, I was.
And you saw Avery Bancroft stuffing what you thought to look like $200,000 into a briefcase.
Yeah, it was about 200 grand.
And Mickey Keenan wasn't there, was he?
No, we were supposed to meet him and Miss Covington later that afternoon.
And Mickey Keenan didn't tell Avery Bancroft to do this.
Objection, Your Honor, calls for speculation.
Your Honor, this witness can attest to his rationally based perception, and that's what I'm asking him to do.
Your Honor, may I respond?
Sure.
You would not know if Mickey Keenan told Avery Bancroft to do this.
I think that's what he's asking.
Yes, it's a comment.
Proper cross-examination. Overruled.
Now, to your knowledge, Avery Bancroft, or Mickey Keenan didn't tell Avery Bancroft to put that money in that briefcase.
I had no idea if he told him to or not, no, sir.
Now, you would recognize that briefcase if you saw it here in court today, right? A copy of it?
Copy of the
Briefcase, yeah.
I believe I would, yes, sir.
Let the record reflect the approach of opposing counsel with what has been marked as defense, or prosecution one. I'm approaching the witness with the same. Now that's the briefcase that you saw Avery Bancroft, what looked like Avery Bancroft stuffing $200,000 into.
It looks like it, yes, sir.
And Avery Bancroft bought this briefcase, right?
I'm not certain it had it. I'm assuming it was him because he was the only one that had the other company credit card.
Right, so there was a company credit card that you and Avery Bancroft had,
That's right.
and you didn't buy this briefcase.
No, I definitely didn't buy it.
Thank you, Mr. Roy. May I tender evidence to the bench?
Any
Objection, Your Honor, this has not been ever entered into evidence yet.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I thought you were off frame.
Prosecution now admits, moves to admit prosecution one into evidence.
No objections.
It's in evidence.
So let's talk about April 16th some more. You were supposed to meet with Chase Covington, Avery Bancroft, Mickey Keenan, yourself, right?
Yes, sir, that is right.
And Chase Covington didn't show up to this meeting.
No, she never showed up.
And Avery Bancroft had that briefcase that was the same one that you saw him stuffing what looked like $200,000 into.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Hyde, you didn't see Covington that day, correct?
No, I never saw her in the casino.
You didn't see him the 15th of April?
On the 15th, who are you referring to?
Chase Covington.
No, sir, I never saw her on the 15th.
And you never saw Chase Covington on the 14th?
Objection, Your Honor, relevance.
Overruled.
No, sir, I never saw her on the 14th, to the best of my knowledge.
So you don't know whether or not Mickey Keenan talked to Chase Covington on these dates?
How would I know that if I never saw her?
Well, that's correct. So you don't know if Mickey Keenan talked to Chase Covington on these dates?
No, sir, I don't.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Thank you. Any other?
No redirect, Your Honor, I just asked that my witness be excused.
Thank you, Mr. Hunt.
Thank you, sir.